No human being is perfect, certainly not. None of us. But I have never in my life committed sexual battery, physical abuse.
You may have watched the trial of Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard and seen the verdict.
I have a right as an American to talk about what happened to me, to own my story and my truth.
But is there more to the story? We are going to talk with someone who knows a lot of things about both Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. I'm Angenette Levy, and welcome to this latest edition of Law and Crime Sidebar podcast. We're glad you could join us, and we have a very special guest with us today. He is somebody who worked for Amber Heard during this case, during the defamation case. He was hired by Amber Heard's legal team to look into Johnny Depp, to investigate him, and to find people who could say bad things about him, like that he hurt women and things like that. And he had some interesting things that he found out, not only about Johnny Depp, but also Amber Heard. And joining us is Paul Barresi. He's a Hollywood fixer. I like being able to say that. He's worked for a lot of celebrities, and he's going to tell us all about that. So, Paul, welcome to Sidebar. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me. You've been in hot pursuit, so I figured I'd come on.
I have been in hot pursuit of you, and we'll talk about why in a short while here. But
Sure.
First, I wanted you to tell me, what is a Hollywood fixer? How did you get involved in that, and what do you do?
How did I know you were going to ask that question? There's a distinction between, there's not much of a journey from private detective to Hollywood fixer. The only difference is the fixer is the last resort guy. When everything else fails, the fixer is the guy you want to call because he usually gets the job done.
Have you ever had to go look for a last minute gift and thought, what do I get for this person? It could be a family member or a friend who has everything and wants nothing. Well, we have the perfect gift for you. It's called Established Titles. Established Titles is this company that sells plots of land in Scotland. A pretty unique gift, right? The plots can be 1 square foot. And when you buy the plot, you actually get a title that goes with it. You become a lady or a lord. Look at this proclamation. It's mine. I am now Lady Angenette Levy for the rest of time. I think I'm actually going to have people start calling me that. And my proclamation actually gives me the number of my plot. And a really cool thing about this, when you buy an established title plot of land, the company plants a tree. So it has this really great environmental benefit that comes with it. So if you want to buy a plot of land from Established Titles, just log on to establishedtitles.com/LC10. You'll get 10% off. That's establishedtitles.com/LC10. Make sure to use that code to get your 10% off. Buy a plot of land and become a lady or a lord, just like me. And so you've fixed things for a lot of people. Tell us some of the people you've worked for. I know on Twitter, on your bio, it says you've worked for Sylvester Stallone, you've worked for
Sure.
Eddie Murphy.
Well, my niche is mostly putting out sexually based scandal fires. No celebrity wants to be the subject of scandal, but sexually based scandal is for a celebrity is like putting a noose around their neck and ending their career and livelihood, because it's always the most salacious stuff that does them in. For example, when I put out Fire for Eddie Murphy, he was entangled with these transvestites, and rumor prevailed that he had a sexual proclivity for transvestites. And I don't know, this is before you were born, probably. In the
No, I remember the story. I was born, so go ahead.
Remember in the 90s, he was picked up in Hollywood.
Right.
He said he was just being a good Samaritan and wanted to give her a lift. I guess it was 2 or 3 in the morning. And she was standing on a corner, but I guess she was a damsel in distress. He was aware that she was a transvestite. And consequently, she ended up getting arrested, and the sheriff let him go home. After that incident, everybody came out of the woodwork alleging they had sexual relations with Murphy, every transvestite hooker, that is. And so I was assigned to the task of rounding them all up and helping them all see their way clear to recanting the story.
Were their stories true though? Or were they just kind of jumping on the bandwagon?
That's the thing. I only collect the information, I gather the intelligence, and I turn it over to the lawyers and negotiate. It's sort of like what they should have done with Donald Trump. Instead of barging in like gangbusters, they should have called a lawyer and said, look, here's the situation. I had sex with Murphy. I'm trying to make a living. And then quietly and discreetly, it would have been taken care of. But when you go to the tabloids, or if you go on Twitter and you start casting aspersions on someone and making accusations on someone, that's etched in stone forever. So it would be wise to try to do it in a diplomatic fashion. Obviously, that ship sailed. So they said, let's call Barresi. We got in-house private detectives who are former cops that can't get this job done. We better call Barresi, because he is very familiar with the Hollywood underbelly, which I am.
I think that's really interesting. I remember the Eddie Murphy story, and we have to say transgender. I know that I learned a lot about that. So just so we're clear, because a lot of people, I guess there's been a change in language about this over the years. I remember this. He was stopped, and this person was a sex worker, and the woman, the transgender woman, was in the vehicle with him. So that was quite the story. So let's get to why you know so much about the underbelly of Hollywood. How do you know about the underbelly of Tinseltown and what goes on there, all the dirty dealings, I guess?
Well, it's a sore subject for people, but it's part of my past. I mean, I'm not the man I was 30, 40 years ago when I posed for Playgirl magazine in 1975. Before that, I appeared in a mainstream movie with Raquel Welch. I had an acting role. That was my desire to grow up and become an actor. Mm-hmm. I ended up landing roles without the benefit of clothes. Now, it was okay for me because it groomed me. It got me ready to stand on the scaffold connecting the two biggest industries in Hollywood, the movie industry and the sex industry, which follows the movie industry like the moon. So the smoldering secrets beneath the red carpet, I'm able to open doors other people can't in that world. I know where to go to talk to the transvestites. I know where the mavens are hiding. I know where the hookers are. I know the red light district. I know the adult entertainment industry, and all things point to the sex, right? And sex scandal. And so I have a unique innate ability to deal with that kind of problem. You were talking about, we have to use the word transgender now, that transvestite, we can't use that word. Well, before that, it was even more indelicate. They would call transvestites tranny. So it would be going from tranny to transvestite to transgender. So people today seem to be very concerned, aware that the proper words should be spoken. Mm-hmm. But yet, for every word in the English language, there are 20 words that you can use. But in our society today, every other word is fuck this, fuck that, fuckity fuck. I looked up Joe Rogan. I said, what is it about this guy? Don't feel like I cheated on you, but I wanted to maybe go. I said, I got to go on this guy's show because that's going to get some play.
Yeah, Joe Rogan. Yeah, okay.
And I turned on the show and I said, and all I heard was fuck, 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 fuck. And then on Twitter, it's always effing whore about Amber, effing whore, tramp, this, that. I mean, the stream of invective coming out of people's mouths. And I'm thinking to myself, have they no letters or words to color their discord? Do they have to use this kind of language? So my advice to people who are sensitive to these old words being modernized, because there's nothing more important than the power of words, which brings me to my effective tool. My effective tool when I put out a fire is not to go in like gangbusters, to beat someone up, to hire a crew from Chicago and break someone's legs. And I'm not a murderer, contrary to what the people are saying on the internet. I didn't kill a transgender woman. I didn't kill Paul Lynn. And so these things are hurtful. And I think the time is overdue to have some sort of a truce. What an extraordinary display of strength. And for Johnny Depp to show that he can share one's feelings for someone. If he would just go in public and say, all of you out there, thank you for your support, for your love through this difficult time. But I think we should kind of cool it with Amber. I think that she's down for the count. She's beyond up against a rope. She's down for the count. She's flat on her back. Let's cut her some slack. And I think that would be a great show of strength. And it would show that he really is a good man if he did something like that.
That's interesting. And I just want to address one thing. I only brought up the transgender thing because I covered a homicide involving somebody who was transgender about 8 or 10 years ago. And I said transvestite on the air and I was hammered for it. So I was kind of informed because I wasn't aware that there was other wording for that. So I learned that lesson. And then that takes us to Amber Heard and Johnny Depp. How did you become employed by Amber Heard in the lead up to the defamation trial in Virginia?
Well, she hired, her first lawyer was Eric George with Brown, George, and Ross. He's a very important lawyer. He represented Michael Ovitz in the Anita Bush settlement. Very powerful. So she got the best. And I had a good track record with Eric, and he called me up and said, I'd like to bring you in on this case. Johnny Depp sued Amber, and we'd like to investigate Johnny. We talked it over with Amber, and we all agreed that you would be the right guy for the job. So I, of course, accepted the charge. I was up for it.
And you had a specific assignment, right? You were supposed to go, I mean, you were supposed to dig up dirt on Johnny Depp.
Yeah, I was supposed to find instances of bad conduct from the past in accordance with what Amber alleged, primarily find other women who were abused by Johnny. So I searched far and wide. I spoke with a great many people. I knocked on doors, and I couldn't find one. I couldn't find one person to say one deprecating thing about him. Now, let me get something clear with everybody. Just because I couldn't find somebody to tell me, yeah, he's a bad guy, somebody credible, we don't know what people do behind closed doors. There are people who clothe themselves in a certain dignity. They're respected, revered, extolled by many. For example, Johnny Depp, he's a national and international star. People love him, just like they love Michael Jackson, just like they loved O.J. Simpson or Robert Blake. And so I think people lose sight of that. It's important that we really don't know for a fact what went on behind closed doors. I wasn't there, but I can say with absolute certainty that I spoke with a great number of people, and they all said Johnny was a sweetheart, that he was a gem of a guy. I'm not saying that well, first of all, a lot of people hold back on telling you things because, number one, they don't want to burn bridges. They might, for example, be actors who like to work with Johnny again. They don't want to say things that might hurt other people. And when you bring scandal upon someone, you verily bring scandal upon yourself. So you have to consider all these factors, because a lot of people weren't talking to me. And it was like punching a wall. I couldn't get people to talk, but those who did only had nice things to say about Johnny. And that's when I decided to go back to the beginning. And when I say that, I mean all the way back to even before he was born. And I collected all of these extraordinary historic documents and photographs of the home where he used to live, places where his father used to work. Just really great stuff that puts Johnny's life in the historical context.
I want to get to that in just a second.
It illuminates those events.
Yeah, and I want to talk about that in just a second, but I want to go back to what you were just talking about. So you kind of went and dug around in the Viper Room. That was that club that Johnny Depp owned in the 90s. And he, it was a music club. River Phoenix OD'd and died outside of the Viper Room. So it's a very well-known place in Los Angeles. And so you're saying out of all of the people you met, digging back through his past, you said there were people who wouldn't talk to you, but then people who would, and the people who would only said nice things.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, there were as many people who talked to me that wouldn't talk to me.
Mm-hmm.
If I talked to 100 people, and I'm sure it was much more than that, you can double it, because in equal measure, there were people who wouldn't talk to me, and for their own reasons, and they have every right not to talk to me. The phone was hung up, or I try to get through to people through their agent, and there was no interest in talking. But I do want to embrace the issue of Twitter and the internet, because I think it's getting a little bit out of hand. Everyone seems to have taken sides, and we've talked before this, and you agree that those who love Johnny take his side, and those who love Amber take her side, and then each side has just really ugly things to say about the other, and they voice it on the internet. And
it got particularly bad last week, I felt like, when
it's bad it's bad every day. And then other people, like, for example, you and I are caught in the crossfire, or we're directly attacked. And in fact, it got so bad, I know it's gotten bad for you, but for me, that there was an actual conspiracy going on between certain individuals who I'm not going to name, a civil conspiracy, which, I work with some of the most powerful ivory tower lawyers, entertainment lawyers in the country. And I never call on them to help me, but I brought this to the attention of one of them, who will remain nameless. And he said, what they're doing, hiring a private detective, schematizing, creating false allegations against you to demean you and to go after your livelihood. He said, there's no complicated way of saying it. He said, this is actionable. You can sue these people, and it could even rise to the level of criminal, because it's a conspiracy. And I said, well, I'm going to keep that under my hat for now. But people really should try to cool it and try to show some compassion. If you ever showed compassion in your life, everybody makes mistakes. The whole business about Amber having sex parties and with women and all that, that looks just like, you know, what people do behind closed doors is their business. They should no more criticize her for that, and they would want someone to criticize them for what they do.
And I think we, I just want to address the reason I reached out to Paul in July, and I had been made aware of him sometime before that, and people were alleging that he was, a PI working for Amber Heard at one point, and then switched teams, that he was like a spy or a double agent for Johnny Depp, and that he was doing things on the payroll for Johnny Depp and Adam Waldman, and that you were betraying Amber. And so that's why I reached out to you, because I had been told all of these things, and I would,
Yes.
that's what I do. I look into things, I get information, I look into it, that's what I do. So that's how I kind of called you. And I want you to address that allegation just briefly.
I would love to address that allegation. Amber hired me in the summer of July 2019 is when she hired me. July 9th, 2019. And I searched under every rock, every stone. We engaged the services of a private detective overseas. We looked all over the world to try to find bad things about Johnny, and we all came up empty-handed. So she fired us. She fired the lawyers, and with the lawyers went me in September. So it was solid 3 months, three and a half months. And so it wasn't until April of 2020 that I decide that I would share some of my times and my experiences as a private detective working for Amber. And I shared that with a guy named Chris White, who's a great journalist in London with the Daily Mail. And everyone would say, well, why'd you do that? Well, the rumor had it that there was a big story that was going to be coming out about Amber Heard's former investigator was in the adult entertainment world, and I just felt that would I know how they would spin such a story, so I felt that I should own that narrative, and I preempted the story that was to be, or I heard was going to happen. I preempted it by calling Chris White, and it was a good move on my part.
Are you working for Johnny Depp and Adam Waldman? Did you betray Amber?
No.
Answer that.
That's what I was going to tell you.
Yeah.
One of the most frustrating things for me is when you do a story for a newspaper, or if you're a source for any kind of a story, you say things and a lot of the stuff is edited out. The best story is the truth. So what happened was, after I did the story with Chris White in the Daily Mail, I got an email from Adam Waldman who said, I really appreciate you coming clean, because the story said what we've already discussed, that I couldn't find anything bad about Johnny. He said, I appreciate, and Johnny appreciates you coming clean, as if I was holding something back. And then we eventually spoke on the phone. I said, look, Mr. Waldman, it wasn't about coming clean. It was just the truth. And that's how it all went down. So from there, we developed a rapport, and I shared with him some of the extraordinary historical documents, which I know you want to talk about later.
Right.
With him, and he found that fascinating. And I said, in fact, there are some documents I found that are so enlightening that the public has never heard about, that I don't think even Johnny knew about it. And that was fascinating. So that's the basis of our relationship. And we have become friends, And
So, but you never worked for Johnny Depp or
incessant.
Adam Waldman, correct?
No, I
Okay,
was
I just
never,
wanted to clear that up because that's been out there quite a bit on Twitter and
yeah,
stuff. So
for the record, I've never received monies. I've never been hired by Johnny Depp. I've never been, my services have never been engaged by Adam Waldman or anybody else associated with Johnny Depp.
So let's talk about the historical documents because you were hired by Amber Heard and her legal team to find dirt on Johnny Depp. And you said you went back to the beginning because
Yeah.
God only knows what you would have found going back to the beginning in 1960 something in Kentucky, I guess. He was born in Kentucky. So tell us what you found when you went looking into Johnny Depp's past.
Right. So when you investigate someone, you essentially build a profile. Profiling is something that's been going on in investigations long before the FBI coined the phrase. The best way to get to know someone is to find out where they come from, because they're a product of their mom, their dad, and where they come from, where it all began, even before they're born. What was their mom and dad all about? And it's very telling about a person. And I know the value of that information. So I went to court archives and I just started fishing, punching in names and so forth in the master file. And I came up with some really cool stuff that, although it's old, no less extraordinary. For example, I found his mom and dad's marriage certificate. There was one single piece of paper, but it told me, I see here that Johnny's dad was 4 years younger than his mom.
Mm-hmm.
She was 25, he was 22. And okay, well, big deal. Well, it is a big deal because you know, and I know, well, you're still in your 20s. But when you're in your 20s,
Bless you.
your brain isn't really fully developed till you're 26. I think I was 45 when mine was fully developed. But
You're a guy. You guys develop later.
Johnny's dad, and this was brought out in court, but Johnny's dad seemed to be a very passive guy. He never liked confrontation, which is very much like how Johnny is, that we found out in court. Johnny is kind of a passive person, I guess, to an extent, like his father. But his father, I think, allowed his mom, Betty, to call the shots, to make the decisions. And so rather than argue with his mom, he let her call the shots. He was passive. And this is consistent with the jobs that he had. He had a problem, I found out through other documents, holding down a job. He worked for the city. He was a civil servant. And he had a problem holding down a job. And so rather than be confrontational, there was a amazing article I found. Sorry to jump around, but a newspaper article where he was fired publicly, his father. And it was a headline, city manager fired. So rather than fight it, he just walked away, which showed strength, in my view. You get knocked down, you just get up, brush yourself off and move on. So this is all very telling stuff about his father. And I remember telling Adam Waldman about that. I said, Johnny was only 6 years old when this went down. And I said, here, his father was headline, John Depp fired from city job. It was a big deal. The Corbin, Kentucky Times was the paper. And I said, this is so much in continuity with what Johnny's going through right now with the dismissal from the Fantastic Beasts series and the allegedly being fired from Pirates. And I said, turning the other cheek sometime isn't a bad thing. It's a show of and found some divorce. I found the divorce. I also found that 8 months before Johnny's mom and dad divorced, Johnny's dad engaged the services of a psychiatrist, and it's unclear whether he engaged the psychiatrist services for marriage counseling, but that particular psychiatrist, I looked him up. He specialized in marriage counseling.
Hmm.
So did he try to save his marriage 8 months before the divorce? I would say the likelihood is very strong that he did. So again,
Yeah.
another admirable quality. And I'll tell you one more document I found that was really interesting, is that before their divorce, is before his mom and dad divorced, they made a divorce settlement, and Johnny was a minor at the time. He was 17.
Hmm.
And in Florida, if you're 17, you're a minor. And so the mom went up before the judge and lied to the judge, said, "Oh, my son is fully emancipated. He's self-sufficient. He's doing fine on his own." Well, at the time, Johnny was in really financial dire straits. He was living and sleeping in the backseat of a car and eating canned beans. So he wasn't in good shape.
Yeah, you had told me about that, and I thought that was so incredibly sad, because I think he had said, maybe I read it, or maybe he said it at the trial, I don't remember, that he dropped out of high school and then tried to go back, but they wouldn't take him back, which is even sadder. And so
So
basically,
it was a rough road for
yeah,
him.
it seemed really, really sad. And just hearing what we heard during the trial about from him and his sister, about Betty Sue and the abuse, and his dad. It's pretty heartbreaking to think of anybody going through that.
It is. So you get to know the person, you get to know that the trials and tribulations, what they had to endure as a young person, and it helps you understand them a lot better, and it shows how vulnerable. It makes sense that going through this, what Johnny went through, he would grow up to be kind of a vulnerable, I don't want to say fragile, but a guy who could be easily manipulated, which brings me to a very important point that I hope you'll allow me to really drive home here. And that is routinely and consistently, when I spoke with everybody who was speaking good things about Johnny, they all had awful, just terrible things to say about Amber. One of Johnny's best friends, Jonathan Shaw, a tattoo artist, he was probably the first best friend I interviewed. And I said, "Well, do you know about Amber? Can you tell me about Amber?" He says, "I don't want to talk about Amber." He said, "The only thing I would let that gold digging whore, I would help that gold digging whore do is load the gun she wanted to use to blow her fucking brains out." That's what he said to me. And I have to tell you, that bothered me. That bothered me. But his manner of speaking, uh, his really hardcore disdain for that woman is so consistent with the kind of vitriol and things I'm hearing on read on the internet. And me personally, I don't like to kick someone when they're down. I never did. I don't like bullying. When I was a little boy, I was bullied, and I don't like it. And I think it's time for everybody to just cool it. And that's the point. That's one of the main things I want to get through on this interview. And I hope you leave that in there.
One thing I wanted to ask you
Time for
about.
everybody to
Yeah, and I of course I will.
Just cool.
One thing I wanted to ask you about was the fact that we heard that Johnny at the trial, we heard allegations that he's basically surrounded by yes men and that people take advantage of him or have taken advantage of him in the past. That everybody around him is basically out for something. And that's just what was stated. That is not me saying that. I don't know these people. It's just what's been stated. So what did you find regarding that?
Well, I found a lot. In fact, I spoke with Adam Wallman about it. Adam Wallman is a really stand-up guy. If anyone is in Johnny's corner, he would be the one. I said, "You're like Johnny's consigliere," and he said, "Yeah, I am." And the consigliere is like the advisor, you know. And I said, the bane of one of the things I found during my investigation is that the bane of Johnny Depp's existence have been these hanger-ons, these opportunists, these wannabes who leech off of him, who insinuate their way into his life just so they can get something out of him. And what does Johnny do? He doesn't know how to get rid of them. He just lets them hang on, and he lets them hang on, and they're there forever. This guy, Isaac Baruch, for example, I know everyone loves him. They love his testimony. I think he is the quintessential flim-flam man. He has been mooching off Johnny Depp since they were young friends. Yeah, I understand. You grow up with someone, your childhood friends, you're like brothers, but that doesn't mean you have to take care of that person. Isaac Baruch, I mean, what is he now, 60? And he's still living off Johnny Depp? I remember
something like that.
question.
60.
I can hear that question with him on the stand right now. Well, what did Johnny do for you? Well, he told me that all you need to do is do your art and I'll pay for it. I'll be your benefactor. You just do your art. And the attorney said, I forget which side, might have been, I forget which attorney. Do you remember? Anyway, so
Elaine Bredehoft cross-examined him.
So the attorney said, well, is that what you're doing? He said, oh, no, I've been so upset for the past 2 years. I haven't been able to paint. Oh, I felt so sorry for this guy. This guy ought to get off his ass. Johnny Depp has been wiping his ass since he was a young guy, a young teenager. It's time for him to get off his ass and do his own thing. And this goes for everybody else who's mooching off Johnny Depp. Johnny doesn't have the heart. This speaks to the tender heart this guy has. He doesn't have the heart to tell these people to take a hike. Johnny Depp, I found, paid people's legal fees, medical bills, rent. He paid off one relative's home. All he does is give. And of course, Amber Heard was his wife. And I'm not, maybe she too took advantage. We all take advantage of somebody at some point, sometime or another. But if someone holds himself out to be type of person just keeps giving, you say, well, he must like it, so I'm going to let him do things for me too. So you, in some respects, you can't hold Amber to a fault for taking advantage either. Maybe she went too far, letting her sister move in and all that stuff, but Johnny allows that to happen. I talked to Adam Waldman about this. I said, you're letting Johnny, or rather Johnny is letting these people come into his life, and he really needs to not do that.
Well, but I mean, he's doing these things. I mean, he's a grown man. Obviously, you're saying he doesn't have the heart to cut it off or to cut them off. But
No, I really think he doesn't. I don't think he does. I think he feels so privileged that he has to do it. He almost feels like he had, who knows what goes on inside Johnny Depp's head, but I think it would do himself a great service if he would just cut these people loose. Someone said, well, he gave great testimony for Johnny. He was a key witness. And well, if someone was paying my way my whole life, I'd given a great performance on the stand too.
Yeah, I
But-
think people just liked him because he was such a character, you know, the Brooklyn accent, the whole 9 yards. He was just a funny guy, you know.
Yeah, but that speaks to the exterior. That speaks to judging someone based on the superficial side. You need to get inside. You need to get in there and know what people are all about. That's why you go back to the beginning. And I'm out there. I see it. I experience it. And I'm in the trenches. So I think I'm a pretty good authority on what's out there. And I'll tell you like it is every time. That's just how I am. I tell you like it is.
And that's what I love talking to you, because you're very very honest and very forthright. So you didn't just, though, you said you didn't just hear things about Johnny Depp when you were investigating Johnny Depp for Amber Heard. I mean, you were hired to dig up dirt. But you said that you somehow came across people as well who knew Amber.
Yes, it's true. I mean, I was asked, well, what'd you find out about Amber? I said, I was investigating Johnny Depp. Now, along the way, when you're investigating, you pick up what they call collateral evidence that's not necessarily related to your central objective, but it's interesting. So, of course, I always have an open ear to hear anything. And I spoke with Amber's very first drama teacher ever, high school teacher at St. Michael's. His name is Ivan Klausia. He's an actor. He's actually been in a low budget movie. He just retired not long ago. I spoke with him and he said nice things about Amber. And I also found out that she had a very tough childhood, that her father was a mean-spirited, irascible natured drunk. And I know what she was going through, as did Johnny. Johnny experienced that kind of abuse growing up from his parent, or at least one of them. I certainly did. I mean, I felt empathy for her. And Klausia went on to say that Amber loved the arts. She loved acting, and that all her friends loved her. And she had beautiful qualities, and she was a wide-eyed, all-American girl who was hoping to become an actress. You say actor now. You don't say actress for women. I got to keep reminding myself. And from there, I was able to get in contact with her childhood friend. His name is Joshua Cruz. And Joshua said that his parents and Amber's parents were good friends, and he grew up with Amber. And he said beautiful things about her. So see, there's good things. There are good things about Amber out there you don't hear about, because they're overshadowed by all the hate and all the vitriol out there. That's the stones that are being thrown at her. I called who I thought was her PR person, David Shane. Does that name ring a bell?
Yeah, he is with Shane Communications, and he during the trial, just for our listeners and viewers who may not know, Amber Heard fired her crisis PR firm that had been working for Stephanie Cutter of the, she used to work for the Obama administration. She owned that firm, and then Precision Strategies. Amber fired that firm and brought on David Shane, because David Shane, his firm had worked against Johnny Depp in the past. They did PR, I think, during the Mandel brothers lawsuit, and worked, I believe, for the Mandel brothers.
Okay, well, I understand why she keeps firing people, because this guy, I want to tell you right now, and if I could see him, I would tell him to his face, he is inept. and he needs to open his ears sometime. I called him up and I tried to impress upon him that which I just, as best I could, cogently expressed to you about how it's important to bring out the human side of Amber Heard. And I was trying to explain to him that people like her first acting coach, her childhood friends, you could get them out there in public to speak to Amber's character. I think it would help her, but I didn't even get that far with him. He hung up on me.
Oh,
And yeah, he hung up on me. So I think it would have helped her calm everybody down. But these attacks are going to continue on. And you and I probably going to continue to be in the crossfire.
yeah.
People prefer to hear only the confessions of one's defects rather than any magnificent achievements that we do in life, which is sad. But that's our society. That's just the way our society is. Yeah, I guess I've become a cynic all these years, but I'm also a realist. I've lived in the real world and I've seen the worst of the worst. The glitz and the glamour of Hollywood is up here, and what I see is the underbelly, what goes on beneath. And it's amazing. I'm amazed that I'm still resilient and in good health and as good looking as I am.
Well, you're a good looking guy and you're in great shape for
Well,
your
I was
age.
going to say, I mean, for my age.
Yeah,
Okay.
you're for your age, you're in
Listen,
great shape. I
I
don't want
don't,
to get into all that. I'm not,
no,
I don't need to be accused.
no, I don't recommend. Yeah, it would be incorrect, politically incorrect.
Yeah, I would get in
It
trouble like for like
would
saying
be
something wrong.
be sexy. But look, I'm 74 years old. I've taken care of myself. I've experienced a great deal in life. I love sharing my experiences with people. Some things I say they may not like. Sometimes they're not going to like it. But one thing for sure, universally, I think people appreciate the truth. So whether they like it or not, as long as you're speaking the truth, that'll give you the edge. At least I hope it will.
Paul Barresi, a Hollywood fixer, former private investigator. Thanks so much for joining us on this edition of Sidebar. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Bring me back.
I will.
I'm
I mean,
just
you're going to
getting
be like my
wound up.
Hollywood fixer expert.
I'm just getting started, so let's
right.
do it.
And that's it for this edition of Law and Crime Sidebar podcast. It is produced by Sam Goldberg and Michael Deininger. Bobby Zoki is our YouTube manager. Alyssa Fisher handles our bookings, and Kiara Bronson is in charge of our social media. You can, of course, find Sidebar on Apple, Spotify, Google, or wherever else you get your podcasts. Also, you can watch us on Law and Crime's YouTube channel. I'm Angenette Levy, and we will see you next time.